Night at the Museum is a 2006 American fantasy adventure comedy film based on the 1993 children's book of the same name by Milan Trenc. It follows a divorced father trying to settle down, impress his son, and find his destiny. He applies for a job as a night watchman at New York City's American Museum of Natural History and subsequently discovers that the exhibits, animated by a magical Egyptian artifact, come to life at night. Released on December 22, 2006 by 20th Century Fox, which presented an A1492 Pictures/21 Lapse Entertainment production in association with Ingenious Film Partners, the film was written by Robert Ben Garant and Thomas Lennon of Comedy Central's Reno 911 and MTV's The State and produced and directed by Shawn Levy. Also producing for 1492 Pictures were Chris Columbus and Michael Barnathan. The film stars Ben Stiller, Carla Gugino, Dick Van Dyke, Mickey Rooney, Bill Cobbs, Jake Cherry, Ricky Gervais, Owen Wilson, Steve Coogan, and Robin Williams. A novelization of the screenplay by Leslie Goldman was published as a film tie-in. The first film in the film series, Night at the Museum, was followed by a sequel titled Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, which was released on May 22, 2009, and the third film Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, will be released on December 19, 2014. Plot: Larry Daly is a divorced father living in Brooklyn in need of immediate employment after many failed business ventures. He resents that his son Nick wants to be a bond trader like his stepfather, Don, and has given up his dream of being a professional hockey player. Larry's ex-wife, Erica, feels that Larry is a bad influence on their son. After reviewing Larry's unpromising raw copyright, Summa Copyright, Debbie, an employment counselor, sends him to the American Museum of Natural History where there is an opening for a nighttime security guard position. Larry learns from the head security guard, Cecil Fredericks, that because of recent financial troubles, the museum plans to replace Cecil and two veteran guards Gus and Reginald with a single guard. Once Larry accepts the position, he discovers that the museum exhibits come to life at dusk, including a Tyrannosaurus rex skeleton who behaves like a dog and fetches one of its own ribs, Neanderthals trying to make fire, and a gun-loving Easter Island mower. After being chased through the museum by the Huns and their leader Attila, Larry encounters Dexter, a fun-loving but mischievous capuchin monkey who steals Larry's museum keys and tears up his instruction manual. When Dexter bites Larry and urinates on him, he finally snaps and decides not to return the following night. In frustration, Larry attempts to break up a fight between the ancient Roman and Wild West dioramas, led by Octavius and Jedidiah respectively. Larry eventually learns from Theodore Roosevelt why the museum comes to life at night. He informs Larry that, ever since an Egyptian artifact the golden tablet of Pharaoh Akhmenrah came to the museum in 1952, all of the exhibits have come to life each night. Roosevelt also warns that if any exhibits are outside of the museum at sunrise, they turn to dust. He promises to help Larry this one time to restore order to the museum. After promising Nick a tour of the museum, Larry decides to stay on as the new night guard. However, he has trouble explaining to museum director Dr. McPhee why some of the miniature figurines have been misplaced. Still feeling a little overwhelmed, on Cecil's advice, Larry studies history to prepare himself better. He also learns a few things from a museum docent, Rebecca Hutman, who is writing a dissertation on Sacagawea but does not feel she knows enough about her subject. The next night, Larry uses what he has learned to better control the exhibits getting Rixie to chase after his rib pulled by a remote control car, giving the Neanderthals a cigarette lighter to build a fire. Giving the Easter Island head a huge wad of chewing gum to appease it and keep him more quiet. Tricking Dexter with a set of toy keys. And making a truce between the dioramas. Even with this newfound confidence, however, things go awry when his attempt at winning over Attila with cheap magic tricks fails. The dioramas continue fighting despite their agreement with Larry, and Dexter is able to steal Larry's keys again and let out all of the animal exhibits. The Neanderthals set fire to a display that Larry is able to put out, but one turns to dust when he leaves the museum at dawn. The incident with the now missing Neanderthal causes Dr. McPhee to fire Larry, but Larry begs for one more chance. Nick in the meanwhile overhears this conversation along with his friends. The same day Larry tells Rebecca that the exhibits come to life at night, but she believes that he is mocking her and the museum, and leaves him. Larry brings Nick to the museum to show him the exhibits, but none are alive. They investigate and catch Cecil, Gus, and Reginald in the act of stealing the tablet and other valuable objects. Like the exhibits, the guards receive enhanced vitality from the artifact. Wishing to retain their health and fund their retirements, the three plan to frame Larry for the thefts, and disable the tablet to stop the exhibits from interfering. Nick reactivates the tablet, but Cecil locks him and his father in the Egyptian room and flees with the tablet. They try to convince Theodore Roosevelt to help, but reveals that he's just an exhibit and can't help at all. Larry releases the Akhunra's mummy from his sarcophagus, and the pharaoh helps Larry and Nick escape by ordering the two giant statues in the room to break down the door. The three find the other exhibits fighting all over the lobby, and after getting their attention with some help from the Easter Island head, Larry convinces them to work together. Although some of the exhibits capture Gus and Reginald without difficulty, Cecil escapes by stagecoach after Jedidiah, Octavius, and their men cause his van to crash. Larry, Nick, Akhunra, Jedidiah, Octavius, Attila, and Rixie pursue him in Central Park, where they stop him and regain possession of the tablet, but Jedidiah and Octavius's car crashes into a pile of snow, presumably killing them. Akhunra uses his tablet to command the exhibits to head back to the museum. While in a taxicab, Rebecca sees the exhibits return to the museum before sunrise and realizes that Larry was telling the truth. She enters the museum, and he introduces her to Sacagawea and Jedidiah and Octavius revealed to have survived the crash. Dr. McPhee fires Larry again due to the chaos during the night, but rehires him when news reports of the strange events around the museum such as cave paintings in the museum's subway station, Tyrannosaurus rex footprints in Central Park leading to the museum, and cavemen sightings raise attendance. Larry, Nick, and the exhibits celebrate. As an epilogue, Larry uses his invention, the snapper, to shut off his flashlight. During the credits, Gus, Reginald, and Cecil are forced to work as janitors in order to avoid going to jail. Cast: Ben Stiller as Larry Daly, Carla Gugino as Rebecca Hutman, Robin Williams as Theodore Roosevelt, Jake Cherry as Nicky Daly, Larry's son, Dick Van Dyke as Cecil Fredericks, Mickey Rooney as Gus, Bill Cobbs as Reginald, Owen Wilson as Jedidiah, Steve Coogan as Octavius, Patrick Gallagher as Attila the Hun, Rami Malek as Akhunra, Mizuho Peck as Sacagawea, Ricky Gervais as Dr. McPhee, Larry's boss, Kim Raver as Erica Daly, Paul Rudd as Don, Crystal the Monkey as Dexter, Pier Francesco Favino as Christopher Columbus, Brad Garrett as the Easter Island head, Anne Miara Stiller as Debbie, Martin Christopher as Merowita Lewis, Martin Sims as William Clark, Ian Campbell as Painter, Charlie Murphy as Taxi Driver. Production: the building featured in the film, which was constructed on a soundstage in Burnaby, British Columbia, is based on the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, external shots of which were used in the movie. Trainers spent several weeks training Crystal, who plays the troublemaking monkey Dexter, to slap and bite Stiller in the film. Robin Williams' Theodore Roosevelt costume closely resembles that of John Wayne's character in The Shootist. Director Shawn Levy credited Ben Stiller for the ensemble cast. When actors hear that Ben Stiller is in a movie, they want to work with him. It's a high watermark and it absolutely draws actors in, and I'm convinced that's a big part of why we got this cast. Cinematic allusion: in the 1939 German film Sollenwagen E417 by Paul Verhoeven with music by Giuseppe Becks, the exhibits in a museum also come to life at night. Music, songs. Friday Night performed by McFly. Not featured in American version of the film, but heard in some international cuts, used during the end credits. It can be heard on the American DVD on the Spanish dub. September performed by Earth, Wind and Fire. Used before the end credits where everyone in the museum is partying. Weapon of Choice performed by Fatboy Slim. used in the scene where Larry returns to the museum for his second night and is preparing for the chaos. Tonight performed by Kek Palmer and Cham. Used for the end credits. Eye of the Tiger performed by Ben Stiller. Used in the scene where Larry is bored and messes around with the telephone at the front desk beatboxing the music. An instrumental version of Mandy by Barry Manilow is used when Larry is standing in the elevator, while escaping from Attila the Hun. Ezekiel Saw Them Dry Bones is the tune Larry whistles as he passes the empty T-Rex exhibit on his first night. Camptown Races by Stephen Foster is sung by the townspeople of the American West miniature diorama. This is a period-correct song. Alan Silvestri replaced John Ottman as score composer. Silvestri's score was used for the teaser trailer of Horton Hears a Who. Reception. Critical reception. A film received mixed reviews from movie critics, receiving a 44% rating from critics, meaning rotten at Rotten Tomatoes, and a 48/100 rating on Metacritic, indicating mixed or average reviews. James Berardinelli of Real Views gave it 2 stars out of 4, and commented on Stiller's performance by stating it might be fair to give Ben Stiller an A for effort, but to call what he does in this movie acting is a misnomer. He does a lot of running around, occasionally falling down or bumping into things. One positive review by William Arnold of the Seattle Post-Intelligencer gave it a B, and stated that the film was out to impress and delight a family audience with the pageantry of human and natural history, and that's a surprisingly worthy ambition for a Hollywood comedy. In a case of life imitating art, museum officials at the American Museum of Natural History have credited the film for increasing the number of visitors during the holiday season by almost 20%. According to a museum official, between December 22, 2006, and January 2, 2007, there were 50,000 more visitors than during the same period the prior year. Box office. Night at the Museum was the highest-grossing film in its opening weekend, grossing $30.8 million in 3,685 theaters. For the 4-day Christmas holiday weekend, it took in $42.2 million. The movie was also released in IMAX large-screen format, often on site at museums of science or natural history such as the Pacific Science Center in Seattle. In its second weekend, Night at the Museum expanded into 83 more theaters and took in approximately $37.8 million at the box office, outgrossing its opening weekend. It maintained its number 1 position in its third week, with an additional $24 million. In total, as of Monday, April 30, 2007, the film had grossed $571,069,550, $250,224,440 in the US and Canada, and $320,845,110 in the rest of the world. Home media. The film was released on a 2-disc DVD edition in the United Kingdom on April 2, 2007. It was released on 1-disc and 2-disc DVD editions and Blu-ray disc format on April 24, 2007 elsewhere. The film became the first non-Disney film to be reviewed by Ultimate Disney, due to the website dealing with other studios besides Disney. References. External links. Night at the Museum at the Internet Movie Database, Night at the Museum at AllMovie, Night at the Museum at Box Office Mojo, Night at the Museum at Metacritic, Night at the Museum at Rotten Tomatoes, Night at the Museum review on Variety.com, IndependentFilm.com video interview with Mizuho Peck who played Sacagawea.